until forever, John's Day, June 24th today, which means if you have thistles, and you know who you are, the time is now. Not tomorrow, not next weekend, now. Because if you let them go to seed in June, you'll spend the rest of the summer paying for it. The thistle may not be a bully, but it is certainly one of the most ambitious plants in the garden. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1804 that the Austrian botanist Stephan Endlicher was born. Though his father was a physician, Stephan was sent to Vienna to study theology. Instead, he fell in love with scholarship, languages, and eventually botany. By 24, he was a manuscript librarian at the Imperial Library of Vienna. By night, encouraged by his father, he taught himself botany. In his early 30s, Stephan founded Austria's first natural science periodical and became curator of the Vienna Museum of Natural History. Then came his masterwork, Genera Plantarum, a monumental classification of nearly 7,000 plant genera. And when it was complete, Stephan donated his personal herbarium of 30,000 specimens to the museum. By age 36, Stephan had earned a medical degree and became a professor of botany at the University of Vienna. Then, in 1847, Stephan named a new genus of tree, Sequoia. But he never explained why he chose that name for the tree. Some scholars believe he was honoring the Cherokee polymath Sequoia. Others believed the name came from Latin. The fact remains that we'll never truly know Stephan's motives. But what we do know is that as revolution swept through Vienna in his later life, Stephan entered politics. And as his finances became more and more strained and his responsibilities multiplied, Stephan died by suicide on March 28, 1849, less than 2 years after naming the sequoia. He was 44 years old. Today, the abbreviation ENDL appears after thousands of plant names, and all are a nod to the names given by Stephan Endlicher. And today, the sequoia is the tallest living thing on Earth, and it still carries a name that Stephan never explained. And it was on this day in 1840 that the English nurseryman Harry Veitch was born. Harry was born in Exeter in the county of Devon into one of the most famous nursery families in Britain. For generations, the Veitch family had built a plant business that grew from a small nursery into what many considered the greatest collection of exotic plants in the world. At 14, Harry began working in the family business. Then, after training in Germany, France, and London, he returned to Chelsea and quickly proved himself a gifted plantsman and organizer. And when his father died in 1869, Harry was just 28 years old, but he soon found himself leading the family enterprise. Under Harry's direction, the Veitch nurseries became the most important plant business in the world. At its peak, the company employed 400 workers, and for more than 70 years, the Veitch family sent plant hunters across the globe to South America, China, Japan, Africa, and the Pacific Islands. Together, they introduced nearly 1,300 plants to cultivation. And among the explorers Harry supported was the legendary Ernest Wilson, known as Chinese Wilson, whose expeditions brought back many of the trees and shrubs we love to grow in our gardens today. To be trained at Veitch's became a mark of distinction for gardeners throughout Britain. Harry himself was known for his work with orchids and for helping create the first hybrid pitcher plant, Nepenthes. Then, in 1912, Harry organized a horticultural exhibition at the Royal Hospital, Chelsea. It was such a success that the Royal Horticultural Society moved its spring show there the following year, and it has remained there ever since. Because of that achievement, King George V knighted Harry, making him the first nurseryman in British history to receive the honor. Yet one of Harry's hardest decisions came near the end of his life. There was no longer a successor ready to carry on the family business. And rather than watch 5 generations of work slowly decline, Harry chose to close the nursery. The rare trees and shrubs were donated to Kew Gardens. The famous Chelsea nursery ceased trading in 1914. Harry lived on another decade, and when he died in 1924, he left behind more than a nursery. He left behind a living legacy of gardens, plants, and gardeners spread across the world. And every May, the Chelsea Flower Show still opens at the Royal Hospital Chelsea, thanks in part to Harry Veitch, who found it a home. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear a charming anecdote about a young Pablo Picasso from children's author E.B. Lepsky. It was on this day, June 24th in 1901, that Picasso opened his first major exhibition in Paris at the age of 19. But E.B. takes us back to an even younger Picasso, when he was a boy and his mother called him Pablito. E.B. wrote, "One day, Pablito dropped and broke one of his seashells. Sad and angry, he threw a terrible tantrum. 'You have other shells that are exactly the same,' his mother said. But Pablito would not be comforted. He had discovered that things that seem the same really have tiny differences. One seashell is always different from every other seashell, just as one leaf is always different from every other leaf. And one peach pit is never exactly the same as any other peach pit.' And young Pablito had discovered that nature never repeats itself. Today, whenever I'm out and about shopping and I hear a child insist, 'I want that one,' I always think of Pablo Picasso as a boy, little Pablito, and his precious shells." It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, England's Magnificent Gardens by Roderick Floud. Summer Gardens Week continues here on The Daily Gardener, and today's book explores an unusual subject, the money behind gardens. The subtitle is How a Billion-Dollar Industry Transformed a Nation from Charles II to Today. Roderick Floud is an economic historian, and in this book, he tells the story of English gardening through the lens of cost. Not the romance of it, the price of it. He follows the money from great estates to modern garden centers, asking questions like, what did it cost to introduce a new plant? Well, the answers are astonishing. Roderick writes, "Novelty is expensive. One of the earliest prices recorded is for a peach tree sold in 1614. When major importation of plants and seeds from North America began, and nurseries competed to be the first to grow them in England, prices were sky high. In 1775, one nursery sold a rhododendron for the equivalent of $1,461 for a single rhododendron in 1775. Alongside those remarkable prices, Roderick also explores the fierce competition for new plants, the poaching of skilled gardeners, and the rivalry surrounding every new introduction. The garden, it turns out, has always been expensive in more ways than one. And England's Magnificent Gardens by Roderick Floud is a fascinating look at the business side of garden history. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1909 that the American writer Sarah Orna Jewett died at her home in South Berwick, Maine. As a child, Sarah was often ill, and her father, a country doctor, prescribed fresh air and long walks. He also took her with him on his rounds. From the seat of a doctor's carriage, Sarah learned the plants by the roadside and the people who lived among them. Those observations would later inspire her masterpiece, The Country of the Pointed Firs. At the heart of the novel is Mrs. Elmira Todd, a village herbalist whose garden overflowed with balm and sage, borage and mint, wormwood and southernwood. Sarah wrote that Mrs. Todd's herbs might cure more than illness. She wrote, "It seemed sometimes as if love and hate and jealousy and adverse winds at sea might also find their proper remedies among the curious, wild-looking plants in Mrs. Todd's garden." And in one of the book's most tender scenes, Mrs. Todd takes the narrator to a windswept clearing where pennyroyal grows. And once there, she confides a secret. The man she married was not the man she truly loved, and her husband was lost at sea within sight of that very shore. Then Mrs. Todd presses the pennyroyal between the narrator's hands and says that nothing in all of Maine compares to this patch. And the rest, she says, is only an imitation. Today, Sarah's home is a museum, and many of the herbs that she wrote about are still growing there. And every summer, when I crush a sprig of thyme between my fingers just to smell the freshness, that unforgettable aroma, I always think of Sarah and Mrs. Todd, standing above the sea, holding pennyroyal, Mintha pelagium, in their hands, as they both stare out at the horizon above the sea. As we close the show today, remember, June is the month of both beauty and vigilance. The roses are blooming, the peonies are just about done, and the garden is asking us to slow down and pay attention. But it is also the season when a small task left undone becomes a much larger task a few weeks later. So take your coffee outside, admire the flowers, linger a while, and then, before the day gets away from you, go pull the thistles. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.